Okay, we're going to open the December the 15th, 2020 meeting. We'll have the invocation by myself. We'll have Pledge of Allegiance by Craig Shadrick, and then we'll have the roll call. Please stand. Our Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight to ask you to watch over us as we go about our duties for the city of Ocoee and the citizens. As we move through this process, we ask for your guidance. We hope and pray that everybody in the country, in the United States and other countries, are overcoming this COVID-19, and we're welcoming the vaccines that comes out. And help us as we go about our daily lives with the first responders that are working on these issues, that they will be safe. We ask in your heavenly name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioner Brinson?
Here.
Commissioner Wilson? Here. Mayor Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Firstner?
Here.
Commissioner Oliver?
Here.
All right, public comment announcement. City Hall is open to the public. However, attendance inside the Ocoee Commission chambers may be limited to accommodate social distancing and is subject to the governor's executive orders. Any interested party may be heard during the public comments and public hearing portions of the meeting. In order to participate remotely, members of the public should call 407-554-7118 or email citizens@ocoee.org in advance and indicate the item you would like to address at the appropriate time during the meeting. City staff will contact you via phone and patch you into the meeting where you can share your comments and/or questions. Comments and questions received via email will become public records and provided to the city commissioners in advance of the meeting. All right. Presentation of Clark Road, Assistant City Manager Shadrick and Development Services Director Rumor.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This is a pretty exciting time. Normally, we don't get to have things that are so positive, but this is actually a positive item that we get to bring forward to you tonight. And we're going to be requesting some feedback and consensus from you on moving forward on a path to create an ultimate Clark Road widening project. So it's a very exciting time, and there's a significant historical component to Clark Road and its role as a major north-south arterial roadway. So I'm going to start off tonight by just giving you a little brief background, and then I'm going to turn it over to Mike Rumor, our Development Services Director, who's going to present you with some options and a recommendation. And as part of that, we've asked Angel Del Portilla, who is our Economic Development Consultant, to enlighten you on some of his efforts in working with the local developer that has proposed one of the options that you'll be seeing tonight. So, Clark Road, many of you were here, but back in August of 1990, the Clark Road project was born, and the commission created a committee to look at Clark Road. And you fast forward all the way through to actually November 1991, the construction started on that. So that was pretty quick movement there. And then the segment from State Road 50 to 80 Mims Road was actually completed by 1994. So that's a really good track record for the city. And as you are all aware, just last week, we opened the segment from Claricona to McCormick. While we were there, we all had discussions about what's the next step and bring it. So that's what we're here to talk to you tonight about. The proposed Clark Road improvement projects will be for a 1.2 mile segment that will be broken into two short segments. Well, actually one short and one long. One from Claricona, Ocoee to Orchard Park, and then one from Orchard Park south to just north of 80 Mims Road. Now, the exciting thing about this is we're taking it from the current bidirectional and undivided two-lane segment, and we're going to create a divided four-lane section, and that will actually provide tremendous amount of additional capacity and trip capacity. Also, it will provide us with a multi-use trail that will be on the west side of the right-of-way, and that's very important because we will then have a major connection to the West Orange Trail going north-south for miles, and that's something that the city's been working on for years. As part of our growth plan, as you all are aware, we are currently acting as the consultant to the West Orange Healthcare District to create the West Orange Trails Master Plan. So this is a very important aspect of it as well. And then, of course, last but not least, traffic signal at Hackney Prairie Road will be proposed as part of this project. Now, the cost estimate for this 1.2 mile project is approximately $4.1 million. That's based on a standard multiplier provided to us by a state agency. And so, moving forward, you can see from the map, the yellow segment, it represents the first section that would go from Claricona and Ocoee Road to Orchard Park, and then the blue segment would be the bulk of the project going from Orchard Park south to just north of 80 Mims. Now, we'll also, before I turn it over to Mike, we now have a lot of capabilities, and you've seen some of it, but we produced this little fly-through. Peter Kosicki, whom you know, who works for Mike in the Development Services Department, actually has mastered some pretty powerful software. So before I turn it over to Mike, we have a little 50-second fly-through that starts off at 80 Mims Road and goes all the way up to Claricona and Ocoee. So we'll try to get that going for you here. And we're moving kind of quick, but you get a good bird's eye view of the visual impact of having that four-lane section divided. We kind of continued, just for aesthetics, the same genre of landscaping that exists currently on the southern segment. But it's a very impressive project, especially when you consider this is actually to scale, and we've sped the video up for time purposes, so it's a significant length project. And this is actually to scale. It shows the cross-section that we'll be proposing. And I'm going to turn it over to Mike, who's going to go through the options for how we get from point A to point B. Okay, Mike?
Thank you. We were standing out there at the ribbon cutting on Thursday of last week, and you can see there's a four-lane section, and as you look south, you see the easterly two lanes, and we're going to have it barricaded off for a little bit. I think Public Works is working on maybe a plan to do a little right turn lane. And Lennar, as a partner in the development, and their engineering firm that they use that designed and engineered the Clark Road extension, their site contractor, Breyer, that's out there working on Phase 5, and then we'll be working on Phase 6. There's an opportunity to keep that momentum going. We know the plans they designed for the Clark Road extension was reviewed by city staff. They understand what's going on out there. So we have an opportunity in the development agreement to continue that and have them construct the road for us. It'd be a little bit different than some other projects that were required to construct and received some impact fee credits. This wouldn't be impact fee credit. We would be paying for it through them. They would be running the project for us with their current team they have. And so looking at the possibilities, and this is the preferred method that staff is seeking authorization from you, is to come back with an amended development agreement that talks about the two segments of road. The existing development agreement had a provision where we could ask them to construct from Claricona to Orchard Park, and then we'd be adding a new section to construct the widening from Orchard Park down to just about the fire station, to that road section we have. Why do we say this is the preferred method? Well, just as I said, we have momentum. We have a team in place that was successful with the Clark Road. We received the initial Clark Road design plans in 2018, and in several months during 2018, got the plans approved. And they were not going to build the section of Clark until they finished Phase 5, but as a team partner, working with Commissioner Oliver, they put a hold on Phase 5 and ran forward with the construction of the extension of Clark Road, and now they're back working on Phase 5. The site development team was able to build the westerly 2 lanes, and then up to their entrance, and then the additional 2 lanes in a fairly quick amount of time. So we're asking you to look at that as the preferred method. The other methods we have is the construction manager at risk. That's a process we utilized at Fuller's Crossroad. And in these following steps, there's a lot of time period that is spent doing RFQs and RFPs. You have around 120 days just to select and get someone under contract, and that's not even the design time. So just by not doing the construction manager at risk, we can save a year. We could really be rocking and rolling with the site team out doing some clearing and grubbing and bringing fill under the process number 1 with the development agreement. If you look at the design criteria, that's what we did with City Hall. We'd be putting an RFQ out for a team, a designer and an engineer, and you would select the team. You would look at their proposals, maybe interview them, go through some design charrettes and some meetings, and get a team and a project, and we could easily save 9 to 12 months from using that method we did with City Hall. And you guys are intimately familiar with the City Hall. You've attended some of those team meetings, those design team meetings. And the last process is the low bid. We'd have to do an RFP for engineering services, select the engineer, get them under contract, they design the plans, and then we would go out again for requests for proposal for lowest bid. And again, all of those processes have 120 days built in them just to select the person. That's go to contract, go through the design, and work with the team. So to me, when you look at option 1, we know who the team is. They just designed, engineered, constructed the Clark Road extension. It provides us a good opportunity. As you'll hear from Mr. De La Portilla, this developer doesn't have to do this. They're willing to be a partner in the community. They're willing to keep this process rolling forward and be a part of that. So with that, we're going to seek your authorization to move forward with an amendment to the development agreement with Lennar to finish the widening of Clark Road. Angel?
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Angel De La Portilla, Economic Development Consultant. So as Mike and Craig mentioned, actually, under the direction of Craig and Mike, several weeks ago, I reached out to Lennar Homes, and I spoke to the division president, Brock Nicholas, to discuss this scenario, whereas since they're already mobilized out there on Clark Road, we can use their team, their site contractor, and their engineer to continue on and continue with the intersection and then southward on Clark Road, and they were very open to it. They typically build infrastructure where they're building communities, so they're working in the area. I think the benefit to the city would be the fact that they are on site, they're mobilized, and there's economies of scale that will benefit the city rather than going out and seeking a new company and a new engineer. They know the area, they know the terrain out there, so they're willing to do it. I think if you all authorize staff to begin negotiations with Lennar, we can have meetings scheduled very soon and come back to you early part of 2021 with an agreement with them. So I'm around to answer any questions. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners.
Thank you. All right. Any questions from the guys?
I do have a quick question. Again, this is another project that most of us that live on the north end of Ocoee is anxiously awaiting and anticipating. However, I do have one quick question. During the construction phase, what time of day would most of this construction be done? I've seen most road constructions done, like the I-4 project and some other road constructions being done at night. And I'm wondering, would this be the case in widening Clark Road, most of this road construction being done at night to open up the roads for the citizens during the day?
Yeah, maintenance of traffic is a very important part of the project. The good thing is the work would be done on the west side. So when you're traveling north down up Clark Road, what you're seeing is that curb for the median. Everything would be west of that. They would not be shutting down any lanes until such time as you hit the intersection of of Hackney Prairie and any type of drainage changes that would be made out there once they get in the field and see how things have settled and worked on. But predominantly, majority, everything's outside of the existing right-of-way. And then at such time as it's going to impact traffic, because we know how traffic is out there, we would be coordinating with them and discussing maintenance of traffic, and we would be updating this commission on what's going to be working out there. And the reason why we chose whatever path for that maintenance of traffic, at such time there is going to be some delays. But a majority, again, is on the west side of the right-of-way, which is outside of the lanes.
Okay. I know I'm jumping ahead of myself here, but how about landscaping in the center? Would that come along with it as well, or would that be something that we would have to look at a later date?
Yes, so they will design to have the landscaping, the irrigation lines in the median. Once the job is done, we'll look at if we've maintained what we have in the current Clark Road, that landscaping will run through the length of the medians for this section.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I have a question. First of all, I'd like to say I am highly impressed with the negotiation with the current Briar team that's out there and bringing them on board to do, our road on Clark Road. I think that cuts out a lot of time, and I'm very impressed with that. But I do have a question regarding our municipal ordinances. Are we under any legal requirement, or can we amend the development agreement without having to go through the RFP process?
Correct. I'll answer first, then Scott. There is, in the existing development agreement, there is a provision to do extra work on the south side of Cleric and Ocoee down to Orchard Park Drive. And that was a commitment, a development agreement, an item that has stayed in. Now, at the time that we were working on Clark Road extension, we were not able to facilitate the financial needs. We are now. So that element, that section is still staying in the development agreement, and we're just kind of lengthening that section in the development agreement. Since it's in proximity and it's already in the existing development agreement, we are good about bypassing the CCNA requirements.
That's right, exactly. Yeah, I agree with Mike. The fact that it's already addressed in the development agreement, we're just expanding the scope in the development agreement, allows us to do it that way.
Okay. Yeah, and of course, I'm always looking to make sure we don't find ourselves standing on that proverbial slope. The other question I have is, if we went with whichever option we went with, but let's say we went with the preferred option, because there's a team in place, we're already working with them, what date are we looking at? What's the kickoff date?
Well, first I'll tell you, Lennar has provided a draft document. They're willing to do the work. We just have to do a little bit more fine tuning to the negotiations. And before we did that, we went in with recognition that Clark Road is open as of Thursday of last week, and you're seeing some barricaded lanes. We wanted to do this presentation before you and let you know they are ready, willing, and able. If you authorize us to keep going forward, we will do a kickoff meeting very shortly. I will bring an amendment to the development agreement back either January 5th or the second meeting in January. I don't know if I put it on this slide, but it should be no later than the meeting we have in January.
Okay,
That
excellent.
would be the development agreement, and they're ready to go. Their engineer not only did the Clark Road extension, but they also did the townhomes at the southern end at AD Men's, and they know the area. They're ready to start spinning their wheels and start doing some basic design.
Excellent. Thank you.
Anybody else? Any other commissioners?
I take it the project is fully funded?
Yes, sir.
And Lennar is willing to work within that maximum not to exceed number?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Well, I personally rode the road and looked, it's great addition coming up on, going out of, going north on Clark Road. I rode it the other day just to see during the peak hours. It's great. They did a great job. It looks good. Everything, the lights are up, sidewalks, everything. So that's what we need. We need that kind of work done on the other part. So I'm all in favor. Now, do we need a motion on this, or we just need a consensus?
Yeah, I think you should do a motion and direct city staff.
All right. Any more comments? I don't have to open this to the public, do I?
No.
All right. Any more comments? No more comments. I need a motion.
I'll gladly make that motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Oliver. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Wilson. Any more comments? No more comments. Let's vote.
Sorry.
Lights on.
Are they working?
Give me 1 second, 1 second. Now. Go ahead.
She's used to me doing that.
Once
I
again,
am.
I'd like to
I'm sorry,
thank the
Rob's not
staff.
up here anymore.
We'd like to thank the staff for all their efforts in getting together and getting this. Angela Della Portilla and Assistant City Manager Mike Rumor and the other part, anybody else that worked on it, we thank you very much.
Excellent.
Appreciate it.
Excellent.
Yeah, wonderful.
Moving in the right direction. All right, staff actions reports.
Nothing this evening, Mayor.
All right, commissioners' announcements. Commissioner Wilson,
Not this time.
Commissioner Firstner,
Not this time.
Commissioner Oliver,
None at this time.
Commissioner Brinson.
Nothing at this time.
All right, I'm gonna do my comments now. I don't want to wait till nobody here. I want to make sure the people at home are awake. I don't like to, I like to say that when we do things the right way, we do things the right way, and I want everybody to know. I always say, everybody knows when I think when our city does great stuff, we do great stuff. But I'm gonna tell you, it's an embarrassment to ride around town and look at the street lights. It's also an embarrassment to go down to our lake and not see any lights. There's poles there that could have been lights on. And it's also an embarrassment to ride down our main road, which a year ago I brought up at this same meeting about having them lights put on them poles. And I'm not trying to dig dirt, but I'm telling you, that don't need to happen anymore. You want to take a ride and look at a town that's got some beautiful lights, ride to Winter Garden. I mean, we are sucking, I ain't gonna tell you. We're in the bad part of it, folks. So this is not showing up good for us. I got a call from Mr. Murnane, who has lived in this town probably 40-something years. I know he used to be my neighbor. I got a message tonight. Why are we putting Christmas lights up when they don't even work? That's another problem. We put the lights up on the poles. At 2 weeks later, we have lights still out. So what's the use of putting them up? I'm not trying to, it really hurts me that we don't have any more care about things that we do in our city. And this is one of the most times when we should have had a little joy and stuff going on with the holidays, with all the stuff that's happened this year. So I'll say this tonight, and I won't say it anymore, but Rob, next year, we don't want that to happen.
Yeah, I've had the same concerns on some of those issues, Mayor, and I've decided we're probably going to start around September next year, making sure that's all
Yeah.
ready to go instead of typically what we do at some point in November. I know I've driven around too, and I've seen, just on Clark Road, I think, there were 12 of the 30 out. So we're going to do better next year. We're going to start earlier. You know, we do identify those. We drive around at nighttime, we identify them. Part of the problem is we turn that into the power company, and sometimes they're really quick, and sometimes, depending on what they've got going on, they're not so quick. But I think if we did that and we tested them out in September-October timeframe, maybe we can shoot for, 98% of them lighting up instead of 90.
Even the little lights that was down on the lake and the trees are gone.
Yeah,
So
they were
it's a problem. We're not very alert on that. And one more thing, I'm going to bring this out too. I checked into it. We need to go back to work here. I'm not getting on to anybody, but folks, we got to go back to work. Winter Garden's all full-time, Popka's full-time, Windermere's full-time, Winter Park's full-time, everybody except us. So I asked you, our employees need to be back to work on a regular day-to-day schedule. So I'm asking staff, we need to look at that. Everybody else, all the other cities are doing it, so there's no reason why we can't do it. So, all right.
Mayor, can I say something about the lights?
Yes,
You
ma'am.
mind?
You sure can.
Is it possible we change vendors or we change designs? We've been using the same design for, I'm sorry, you're over there, Craig, too. If we look at a different design, because, I mean, we've been through other cities that are very pretty. I was
Yeah,
in
I
Palm
think
Beach
I
the other
understand
day.
where you're going, Commissioner. It's like the pigtails on the lights are something that the power company does, and the actual hanging of the ornaments, no matter which ones we buy. It's two different entities, basically. So the ones who hang the lights up there, they're not the ones who check and see that the pigtail that they're connecting into is good. That's what the power company does. So that's typically where the problem lies, and we end up with all these, lighted ornaments up with only 90% of them working, because then after that, we have to get the power company back out there to check and see why they're not working. But it's not the same company that does both things, so.
Well, I'm also looking at design. I
Yeah,
mean, we've been looking at the same,
Yeah,
we've
I
been
mean,
looking at the same ornaments for probably the last 20 years.
No,
Yeah.
it's,
And
that's what we've done traditionally, and if
And-
there's something we want to try new,
I think we should,
we're open to that
maybe
idea.
look at other vendors to see what they might have.
I'd
And the
like-
other thing is, I agree with you about the lights on the lake that, and I'm not comparing us to Winter Garden. I love
not.
Ocoee. But they're downtown throughout the year, have the lights on the trees in the center. And we used to do that down the lake, and then
Yeah.
I don't know what happened, why they came off the trees, but, it's something that, it looks sharp all year round.
Well, I'm not comparing them to Winter Garden. I'm just saying, go take a peek and look at them. You can go to Winter Park and look at theirs, or you can go to Popka, but I'm just saying, there is something wrong when somebody doesn't look at that lake and see, after we did all the work to that Lakeshore Center, that grass, that landscaping, and everything else down there, that is a showplace. And all the people that come down there that's been coming down, if you ride by there every day like I do, it is loaded with people. But there's not one light down there lit up for Christmas. So that's, we'll move on. We don't need to let that happen again, though. And Winter Garden got all kind of, I say Winter Garden, but they got all kind, you can't hardly ride through town without having your blinders on.
Well, they, even looking out the lakeshore, from the Lakeshore Center, looking out with trees lit up on the lake, would still look pretty, whether it was August or
It's-
December.
It's a beautiful place down there. All right.
Thank you.
One other announcement here, let me read that, where to open. In observance of the Christmas holiday, City Hall will be closed on Thursday and Friday, December the 24th and 25th, with no trash collection on Friday the 25th. City Hall will also be closed on Friday, January the 1st, 2021, in observance of New Year's Day, with no trash collection. We need to post that, too. I know a lot of people will be calling. So, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, public comments. Any public comments? Anybody?
No, the only comment I have is for the public hearing.
Okay. All right. Consent agenda.
I'll make that motion to approve.
Motion made by Commissioner Wilson to approve the consent agenda. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Brinson. Any more discussion? No more discussion, let's vote. Motion carries unanimously. All right. Boy, now I'm no public hearing, first reading of ordinance, second reading of ordinance for public hearing. Second reading of ordinance, item 6 for reserve at Lake Meadow, rezoning to planned unit development, PUD, and PUD land use plan and preliminary subdivision plan. Director Rumor.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Again, this is a rezoning the plan unit development from agriculture and a preliminary large-scale subdivision plan for the reserve at Lake Meadow. The property is located on the north side of Nicole on Lauren Beth. It's on the east is Lake Meadow. The big square you see to the sort of the southeast is the water treatment plant, Jim Beach Center property. As I said, located off North Nicole Boulevard and Lauren Beth Avenue. It's just south of the intersection of Ingram and Claricona Ocoee Road. The parcel is currently vacant. Agriculture, and the plan unit development is proposing a this is 48, they've since then just revised to 46, so under the plan unit development, we'll be approving 46 single-family lots. They're 40 and 50-foot wide lots. This is an aerial of the property that shows the 18 acres. It's got some of the land's in the water. We don't count for the buildable area, the land that's within the water. We do count wetlands and floodplain, even though the lot is not able to be located in there. Just want to draw your attention. So this preliminary subdivision plan its function is to show you the layout of the subdivision, and these are some zoning maps. The layout, the location of access, sort of how it's going to function, that it meets the land use, future land use designation of low-density residential, which is up to 4 dwelling units an acre. So this would be Lauren Beth Avenue. Lauren Beth is a county-maintained road. We have a proposed entrance, one way in, one way out for the 46 lots in this location, and I'll point something out here in a little bit. Just want to show you that there's an out parcel in front of this that is not a part of the application, has an existing single-family home. Then you have the residential neighborhood off Nicole Boulevard that was constructed in the 80s. And then you have on the east side, Lake Meadow, and on the north side, there's an agricultural property that's in the city of Ocoee, and then just north of that, we have the nice Lake Meadow Naturals Farm that many people enjoy. I want to show you with this property, the area I have highlighted in white, it's a piece of property owned by Orange County. It is not Orange County right away. It's owned by Orange County, but it has existing city of Ocoee utilities running through it. I don't know why we haven't obtained ownership. As part of this application, if it's approved, we will be seeking approval from the county to have them give us this property, and it would be then platted into the public right-of-way, which is proposed. The subdivision plan calls for connection to water and sewer with a lift station. It has a open space track. In the wetland buffer area, there will be a trail proposed that'll connect down to the south. This will help start finishing the pieces that we already have in place. Arden Park has the 25-foot track designation for a trail. The townhomes being built sort of just south of that has the track, and then we own all the rest of the land around the lake. So we're getting close to one day having a full trail around Lake Meadow. The property is, since it's not trying to exceed the land use designation, it met capacity. So capacity was not an issue with this because the land use afforded over 70 units, and they're only coming in now at 46. So it passed the school capacity. In order to move forward from the preliminary subdivision plan to the final, 2 things will have to happen. We'll have to get this land from Orange County, and then the utility plan will have to work. They do show in their packet, in their subdivision plan, just a proposed that it is connecting to water and sewer, but this is not a utility plan approval. The lots are 40 and 50 foot wide by 110, 115. It's traditional builder neighborhood. This is not one that's going to be entitled and you purchase your own lot and find a builder. This will be builder spec. They have Dream Finders homes. The minimum living area of these homes are 1,600 square foot. The maximum house size of the subdivision to the south is 1,300 square foot with garage. This is a use that is close to what we have achieved in Arden Park. If you look at Arden Park on the north side of the lake, as you go around clockwise, there's a vacant property in the county that we expect to develop as Arden Park. Then we have townhomes below that on the south. And as you go below that, there's a mixture of single-family and townhomes on the south side of the lake. You have our water treatment plant and beach center, and then you will have this subdivision, and there's a couple of parcels going up to the north that are little farms until you reach Arden Park. The proximity of this subdivision not being on a major road, feel really, I was really thankful that we received a subdivision plan like this. I've had talked to people that were looking at different types of higher density uses along the lake, but we wanted to keep the trail and we wanted to keep residential houses along Lake Meadow. I will draw your attention to, in the staff report, you'll see that the Planning and Zoning Commission had some mixed emotions about it. They recognized and accepted the single-family aspect of the subdivision. They just were not satisfied with some of the answers that were given for the questions. The team that's here today is a different team that, from the applicant, that will put together a better presentation. I'm here to answer questions. They'll describe the drainage, but as I've discussed with some people on Lake Meadow, the drainage predominantly will go to the west and not to the east in the Lake Meadow. There's a discussion going on at the lake levels of Lake Meadow and Prairie Lake and many of the lakes in Ocoee. They are high. They haven't reached or exceeded the 100-year. These new subdivisions develop under more stringent criteria than those in the past. There's a closed basin. They'll hold the 100-year. And I'll let their engineering team, they have a presentation as well. So with that, I'll entertain any questions.
All right, I'm gonna, can I open what I want to do is open it to the public and then let the developers come up also. And that way we can ask questions through the board. Excuse me, developer here, come on up and then introduce yourself, then we'll open it for questions. First you can talk first, and then we'll open it for questions.
All right, I appreciate that. Do I need to speak in the microphone? Sorry, my arms are not quite as long as mine. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Rebecca Wilson. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Elevation Development. We have, do I just hit next? Thank you. We have our entire project team here tonight to answer any questions that you all or the residents may have about the project. As Mike showed, the location of the development, it's about 18 and a half acres with a future land use of low-density residential, and we're asking for a planned development to be consistent with the low-density residential and also showing you our preliminary subdivision plan. As also mentioned, the existing future land use allowed 48 lots. That's what we took to planning and zoning. Based on some feedback that we heard, we have tweaked the plan a little bit. We've increased our buffers to Lake Meadow. And when we did that, as you can see on this preliminary site plan, we were then able to pull the trail out of that 25-foot upland buffer. And so it is no longer in that upland buffer area. I'll show you a little more about that. And then we were also able to remove a large retaining wall that we were going to use on the lake, and now instead we have a sloping grade down to the lake, and I think aesthetically that addresses some of the concerns that we heard at planning and zoning. Just going through the site data a little bit, we are not maxing out the building coverage. Your required open space is 35%. We're providing 60%. And then with regard to the walking and fitness trail, this shows how we are building the trail so that it extends to the north, so that if and when that property to the north is developed, it can tie in. And then it will sort of hug our stormwater retention pond and be some nice views between the pond and Lake Meadow. And then it extends to the south to a tie-in that may eventually be made going all the way around the lake. This is just the mulch type walking trail so that it has a low environmental impact. With regard to the property on the north, we are proposing a fence in this location. As mentioned, it is not currently developed, but it would be this type of PVC vinyl fencing for along those rear lots. One thing I want to point out that occurred to me when I was looking at the site map when Mike had it up, when you're coming down Lauren Beth, these are not going to be houses that you see from the road. They're really in the center of this property. Let's see. With regard to the amenity tract, this is to be a playground for the kids in the neighborhood with the typical playground equipment you would see. These are a number of the elevations that we provided to the city just to demonstrate the quality of the homes. And again, as Mike mentioned, the minimum square footage of the 1,600. Also, we're kind of tracking the same. As he mentioned, there are similar neighborhoods in the area that have this mix of the 40 and 50 foot lots, several in Arden Park. Also, as mentioned, school capacity was marked available, which we were happy to receive from OCPS. And with that, Scott Israelson, I didn't say that correctly, did I? Oh, I did, okay. Wanted to just give a little bit of information on traffic since that was a topic at our previous meeting.
I have a simulation of traffic. I've done dozens of these public meetings and all over, and I enjoy talking about traffic, but when I start talking about numbers, people's eyes gloss over. So that's why we thought it'd be a great idea to show a simulation of the traffic that's going to be out there. What we have is a very nice low volume traffic or a low traffic volume neighborhood, and we're adding a little bit more traffic on top of it. What you're seeing is north-south roadways Lauren Beth Avenue, east-west roadways Nicole Avenue. You can see the project access just north of Nicole Avenue. And I apologize that this isn't a more exciting video, but this is the reality. We used actual traffic counts at the intersection. What I do is I take what a 46-unit subdivision would add to it, put those trips onto the driveway, and this is what we get. So it's a boring video, but that's what we want. We don't want a lot of new traffic. And kudos to city staff, to Mr. Romer, because this project does not trigger the city's threshold for requiring a traffic impact study. But city was aware that there are concerns about traffic. So that's why he required, the developer was required to hire us and perform this study. And that's my goal here today, is to show you what is out there and what will be out there. And hopefully this simulation can assuage some fears or some concerns about residents. Here you can see I moved the needle ahead just because there was so few traffic. I wanted to show a little bit. What I'm modeling here is, if you can see on the top bar where that slide is, it's 5 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. This is the peak period, the evening rush hour. And you can see there's a few cars coming in and a few cars going out of the development. Again, this explains what we can see much, much better than what I can explain. But I'll be happy to answer any questions after our presentation. Or go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I find it hard to believe that one car, two cars, especially coming off in the afternoon. I've been there where they come off of Clear Corner Road coming down Laura Beth, coming into Nicole, all those houses up there are more than one or two cars that you showed. You only showed a couple cars. I mean, that's nice to see the cars moving, cutting off Nicole and cutting up the other way. But there's a lot of houses up there off Lady Avenue. And a lot of people use that, believe me, that Laura Beth is going to have to be improved anyway. That road is used way more than what you're showing. And I'm usually pretty easy about this traffic stuff because I know what the traffic study shows. But one or two little cars running across that line is not helping me at all. That's not a good thing of what happens there. Because I can tell you in the afternoon, probably from 4:30 to 7, you're going to see a lot of cars coming down that road before that place is built. I just want everybody to understand, one or two cars on that little design is not going to be what's going to happen. The other thing I want to ask, I can ask the lawyer or Mike, what did the planning and zoning board say?
The discussion from the Planning and Zoning Commission,
What did they vote?
they voted to 3-2 for the rezoning to allow the 48 units.
Yeah.
What they voted 4-1 against was how the subdivision functioned. They didn't receive good answers on the lake level, and this location of the driveway on Lauren Beth. Theirs was more of a distance comment, and there was a phone call resident that said people drive fast on Lauren Beth. We cannot regulate driving habits based off of subdivision criteria. That is a function of other methods we have. It's not our road, but if it was our road, we could have the police and we could look at a speed table on a local road like that.
Well, the other problem, and this is just what I see, because I've traveled that road a lot over the years. That road, when you come off Clear Corner coming down, it does a different level. It jumps down. And when you're coming out of there, it's going to be coming up and up. So I'm just telling you, that little diagram does it, and that might get you all excited, but watching a couple cars run around there ain't helping me a bit, because I know how many cars are running that road. But that's my opinion.
Mr. Mayor, I sure appreciate that. And as I mentioned, this isn't my first time around. We don't do this in a vacuum. Your city's transportation consultant is there reviewing our work. They're a good group. They're real sharp. And the second thing is I've had this exact same comment come up before in some other agencies. That's why we have video at the intersection. And I will make that video from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. out at that intersection, available to anybody who asks for it. And that way you can go ahead and check our work and check our counts and make sure that 23 cars turning left from Lauren Beth into Nicole Avenue, you can double check and make sure I'm on track there. So with that, unless there's any other comments or questions. I'll turn
Anybody
it over
else?
to Becky.
My major concern is, traffic is always one of my major concerns. But when we start talking about Lake Meadow, that is something I've actually been dealing with for the past year or so, the stormwater drainage into the lake itself. That is one of the things that the folks that live along that lake in the unincorporated Orange County side of it is very concerned, because I've been out there and I have seen the barns underwater. I have seen a chicken coop full of water where they actually had to move it across the street. And I know that we were stating about the historical water tables. They have not quite met their peak. So again, we could talk science all day, but when you go out there and look at it and take pictures of it, and I've shared pictures of it, the lake, again, we get a little rain, those guys are underwater. You got horse stables and barns underwater, and you have a area behind the farm where there's a 6-foot retention wall, and you can barely see the top of it. So seeing these things, and so that's going to be a major concern as to how the stormwater drainage is going to function with this community in conjunction with the lake. I know they was stated that it's going to be draining from the subdivision to the west as opposed to the east. But if that's the case, could you kind of explain how that will work?
Commissioner Oliver, that set me up perfectly for the next part of the presentation, where I will call up our engineer, and he will explain just that to you. So thanks for asking.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the commission. My name is Charlie Potter with the Avid Group. I'm the civil engineer on the project. Let me try to do my best here based on these slides. Let me try to show you. I'm going to show you the existing conditions. I'm going to show you what we're proposing, and then I'm going to show you what we're doing to deal with our proposed conditions. So the first thing I want you to look at on this slide here is this kind of shows you the existing conditions. And the big red line that kind of runs right down the middle of the property is a ridge line, okay? From that ridge line, all the property to the east all drains today directly into the lake. So when rain falls onto the property, you know, with the exception of what gets absorbed into the ground, the rest of it runs directly off on that side into the lake. On the west side of the property, you kind of have another dash line there that kind of shows you two different areas where water's going. Water's going to a small isolated wetland, kind of there in the center of the property. And then up in the northwest corner, it's sliding over into a small floodplain area there that kind of starts on our property and wraps around further to the north on the other property, and eventually connects to the lake itself. Because as you get further north, the elevations get lower than the elevation that our property currently sits at today. The big blue areas are the other thing I want you to focus on, because those are the areas that are highlighted that are per the published FEMA map today. Those are areas that are considered in the floodplain in a 100-year event. So that's what we wanted to demonstrate, so you could see the areas that are currently in the 100-year floodplain. Okay, all right. This next slide now let's talk about what we're proposing to do. We're gonna design this subdivision. We're gonna have 46 lots. We're proposing all of these lots to be what are called A lots. An A lot means that all the drainage on the property drains from the rear to the front and out into the street. So water's not going across lots, it's not going off of the property into the lake back to the east, and it's not going back to the west on somebody else's property. Everything's being drained on those lots to funnel to the streets. Once it gets to the streets, it'll go into an underground stormwater system, and it will be piped into a large pond that we're proposing on the west side. It's a little bit difficult to see here. I'd have to go back to the main site plan, but let me see if I can flip back real fast. Just so there we go. You can see this large pond right here in this general vicinity on the west side where all that water's being piped to. The big thing I want you to understand here is your own land development code. This is what's called a closed basin. And a closed basin means the water doesn't have anywhere to go in a 100-year event. It doesn't have an outfall to a river or somewhere else. It's completely contained in a basin here in a 100-year event. The requirements of your own code say that in a 100-year storm, we have to have 100% containment of all of our runoff in a 100-year storm with 0 CFS release off of our site. And it has to recover within 72 hours in order for the next rain event that would come immediately after it. So I want you to understand your code is making the situation better than what's there today. Because today, when you get a 100-year storm, water's running off of our property and into the lake. When this development is approved, all of that water is going to an isolated pond that is designed in a 100-year storm. The water will not overtop the pond in a 100-year event. It will stay completely contained, and it will not be released to the north. It will not be released to the east, and it will stay in that pond until it perks out, and then it will be recovered, and it'll be available again for the next storm. The big question that came up during the Planning Commission hearing was, hey, we're concerned that this project is going to cause the floodplain out here to rise. Like, you're going to fill in available volume, and the next time we get a rainstorm, everybody else's property is going to see higher water elevations. Well, what I want you to see here is there's two areas right now where we're proposing to fill in the floodplain. And it is this circular area in the center, and it is this small little triangle area up here in the north corner. Again, I want to focus on your own land development code. Your own land development code says that if you fill in any amount of the floodplain, you're required to compensate for it. And it works on a cup-for-cup basis. So if I take a cubic foot of dirt and I place it inside there, I now have to go to another location and I have to dig out a cubic foot to compensate for the cubic foot that I just filled in over here. And that's essentially what we're proposing to do. We're proposing to fill in this small isolated wetland in the center of the property and this small little corner up here in the northwest corner. We're not proposing any impacts to the floodplain along the lake. I wanted to make sure that was clear. We have a buffer now between our lots and the lake. When we went to the Planning Commission, our site plan previously was shifted further to the east, and the back to those lots were right up against the lake. And there was real concern that, hey, these lots are so close to the lake, how are you not impacting the lake? This is a problem. And that's something we took into consideration when we were adjusting the site plan. So now that we're proposing these small, this small little isolated wetland makes up about 17,000 cubic feet of volume and change, and this small little area up in the northwest corner is about 4,300 cubic feet. And what I want you to see here is when we build our project, we're not only proposing this wet pond over here on the west side, and what I mean by wet pond is we'll dig it out and it will be a wet pond, so it'll be an amenity for the community, right? And our volume, our drainage volume will be stacked on top of that, above the seasonal high water elevation. And then in addition to that, up here in this northeast corner, there's going to be a dry flood comp pond, okay? That again is created so that what we have to demonstrate when we come in with our construction documents is if we say we're going to disturb 10,000 cubic feet of volume or 5,000 cubic feet of volume, we have to compensate for that on a one-to-one basis. And we actually are showing more compensation right now than what we're proposing to encroach on, which is only going to help the situation and make it better. But the big thing I want to make clear is that today in the existing condition, you've got water that's directly running off into the lake. And when this project is completed, that's not what's going to happen. This was not, and I wasn't able to make the Planning Commission hearing, because I didn't, and shame on me for not being there, but I wanted you to understand and see exactly what we're proposing to do from a grading standpoint, because I don't think they understood what we were trying to tell them about how this drainage was going to work. But your own code won't allow us to do anything different than that, and I just want to make sure that's clear. And with that, I'll stand for any questions, and I don't know if there's anything else that we need to go over, but I'll stand for any questions that you have.
All right, questions can be asked from the audience also, because I got a public hearing, so it's open to the public also. Anybody else have any comments? If you're raising your hand, you have to come to the podium. You fill out a form. You have to fill out one of the forms in the back. You can come ahead and talk, then please fill the form out when you get through.
Mayor, I also have 2 calls.
All right, we'll do them next.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Michelle Iannuzzi, and thank you very much for hearing me tonight. I'm actually the person who lives on the very corner of this property, 1000 Nicole Boulevard. And one of the few things that I had questions on was the traffic, which they've obviously discussed that already. And I do have to say, living on that corner, I've seen a lot of traffic come through here. I hear it every day, all day long, especially in the afternoons and evenings. But that is not an accurate description, I can tell you, because I'm right there every day. I can't sit in my backyard without hearing it. So one thing that I've done in the past is I have come to you guys. Probably about 10 years ago, I started to make complaints and request for police or I think at one point they put a test rope across the road to find out how many people were coming in and out of the roads. I have lost a light. We had a light. It was one of those traffic lights or the night lights at the corner of my property that was taken out by a car. My fence has been brought down by cars that have crashed out there. They really do not pay attention to that stop sign right there. So people do speed a lot out there. The traffic isn't really a major concern for me though. What's a concern for me though is the fact that they've got that road right behind my property and 8 other properties there. And the floodplain itself does account for the area around this property that they're proposing, but it loops up and around it. It actually comes up and around it. And that area, a long time ago, was filled in all the way up to my property, beyond my property. And anytime you put anything into the floodplain, the wetlands, this is actually, the entire area of this project is within the wetlands. And by building up, I don't know exactly what your elevation is. What is your elevation going to be?
Well, I can tell you that the flood, oh, sorry. Just to be clear, the floodplain elevation out here is at elevation 84.6, and our proposed finished floor grades are going to be somewhere around elevation 91, 92-ish, somewhere in that range.
It's about like 10 feet.
Well, it's not quite, about 6 or 7.
Okay, so I work for FEMA. I'm actually an environmental specialist, and we deal with a lot of the floodplain, wetlands maps and everything. So for me, and I'm sure the other people in the area are more concerned about the floodplains, how it affects it, what elevation it is. It's 10, you're saying about a little bit less than 10 feet or so. Where that water is going to go, obviously you've talked about that as well. But for us, you're sure you're not going to be putting a retaining wall around the lake? Because I think you mentioned that earlier. You said something about a retaining wall at the end of the lake, and you removed that from your project? Okay. And let's see here. So for the people who live along that 8 houses on the southern end, you mentioned the fencing on the north side. Are you going to be putting fencing on the south side along that driveway area and across the bottom? Or is it just going to be a road?
Mayor, would you prefer us answer like this, or would you?
No, you got to come up to the, you have to come up to the podium. You can go ahead and ask your questions, then we'll bring them up.
Okay, so I have that question. Let's see. The additional traffic, because Lauren Beth, of course, let's see. One of the things you had mentioned was the road itself, Lauren Beth. It does make the steep, if you're coming from Nicole Boulevard, it makes a steep drop down. And that's where we see a lot of accidents, because people come speeding up that road and kind of do a wheelie, or they pop up. And that's where they actually went into my fence. But that's where you're putting it at the bottom of that hill, where it's a blind spot, because I typically will not be able to see the people coming until I get over the end of that. And the same way around coming from the north to the south. And so you're proposing this driveway that is in a really, I'd say, hazardous area because it is a blind spot. I'm sure if you clear some of the trees and make that driveway, it'll clear up some of the issue, but there's still a huge jump down. I'm not sure if you guys plan on doing any work on the road itself, so that would be a question, is what's going to be done to the road if you're elevating that particular area. And so that's number 2. And then you mentioned something about the floodplain being about approximately 90 feet. And for me, being at 1,000 Nicole Boulevard, I'm just concerned that even with those retention ponds, if you look at those, it doesn't account for that entire space that you're proposing, that residential area. Those 2 small areas don't seem to be able to soak up all of the water that could potentially be in that small section. I just
Okay.
don't understand how that would work.
All right, we'll get them to answer your questions. One quick thing, I couldn't understand. What's your address?
1,000 Nicole Boulevard, it's the
Okay, I
corner
know.
property.
Right, okay. All right. Can y'all answer the questions she asked? You wrote them down. Can you come up to the podium and answer those questions? Thank you very much. Thank you. Don't forget to fill the form out.
With regard to the homes along Nicole, as you can see in this site plan, so can you see my cursor? Yes. So this line here, and then again down here is the currently county-owned property. And we've started discussions with the county to have that turned over to the city. So that would then be a city right-of-way behind you. And the road curving, as you can see, is right along here. And so my understanding and from the surveys is you all have fences back there. And so it would just be landscaped county right-of-way behind you with your existing fences to remain. and no access onto that road so that there wouldn't be cars coming, dual access from the front and the rear of each of your lots. I'll let you answer the drainage, but, just quickly on the road, and I, certainly don't live here, but have been out there to check this out a couple of times. I think some of the issue we're struggling with is that although this property is in the city, the road is still in the county, and I think you all may be also in the county too. No, you're in the city, so we've got a county road with a lot of city traffic on it, and so we're somewhat have our hands tied as to what we can do out there, but certainly are happy to continue to work with the county as we're getting this right of way and with your city on these, what sound like to be existing, sorry, I'm supposed to be talking to you all, which sound like to be some existing issues that this neighborhood has out there, and we're happy to keep working with your staff to resolve those.
Is that all your questions answered?
The drainage, I think she's got one on drainage.
Okay. All right. Anybody else in the audience, anybody else in the public have any comments?
Just real fast on the drainage, I just want to make sure that we're clear about something. So again, if I get back over here to the, I keep going the wrong way. Mike, is this not the right? Oh, here it is. Here it is. I found it. Sorry, I'm slow. Just bear with me as I'm trying to find this. Here it is. I just real quickly wanted to show you, again, if you look at the existing conditions, I know the concern was, hey, how's this going to hold all this drainage back, right? So we're building a pond, right? So we're going to have a pond that's going to be built, and it's going to have the capacity in it so that when all this runoff comes in, it's stored inside that pond. It can't escape the pond, right? There's going to be no ability, there'll be no elevation low enough so that in a 100-year event, the water cannot overtop the pond. And so all around these edges, and again, what I wanted to be clear was the existing elevation of the floodplain out here per the FEMA map is approximately elevation 84.6. And when you look at the existing conditions here, you can see that the contours come up drastically. Right now today, in the center of our site, the existing elevation here in the middle is between elevations 91 and 92. So the site's already built up today. All we're proposing to do is filling up non-floodplain area is not going to affect the floodplain because we're taking that water and we're controlling it and we're holding it on site. We're not releasing it somewhere where it's going to have an adverse effect on somebody that's surrounding us. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear. Hopefully that answers the question that you asked, and again, we'll stand for any questions you may have.
All right. Another quick question, Mike. Retention pond maintenance, is that going to be a city ponds, or is that going to be the homeowners ponds?
We would assume maintenance and responsibility of the public roads. The ponds are a part of the HOA, of the homeowners association.
That's another thing that I want to make sure of, because we got a problem with Amber Ridge that was built years ago, and that's been an ongoing fight for 30 years now about the retention pond. Right. And I know Commissioner Brinson's probably heard from him before. That's been there since we started, so we want to make sure in this rules and regulations that they do maintain that, those ponds.
Yes, and just want to remind you that our requirements are more stringent than the St. John's River Water Management District. They will receive and go through St. John's River Water Management District stormwater approval. They'll have a permit through the state. Our requirements are more stringent. The next phase of the subdivision is the platting, and what the city attorney does is make sure in those documents, the homeowners association documents, it covers the maintenance, the requirement for the maintenance of the stormwater ponds.
All right. Anybody else?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. You have a retention pond in the north east corner of the property. What triggers that pond to be activated for water to flow into that pond?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question again? It was hard for me to hear. I
Yeah,
apologize.
no worries. Your pond is in the northeast corner.
Yep,
The pond that's on the west side of the property,
yep.
if it becomes full, what triggers the other pond to start filling up?
The other pond only fills up in an event larger than a 100-year storm event.
Okay, what's
So
the
our-
definition of a 100-year storm?
Well, a 100-year storm is basically the storm event that we use to establish finished floor elevations for all buildings, okay? So whether they're commercial or residential, we design all buildings so that in a 100-year storm, the buildings are high and dry. So the only time that this pond is going to have any kind of overflow back in this direction is for an event even larger than a 100-year storm.
Okay, so the trigger is 100% capacity of the other pond.
Correct, but it would have to be a storm event larger than a
Well,
100-year
yeah,
storm
we
event.
live in Florida, so we have hurricanes come through here from time to time.
Sure,
So,
sure.
yeah, so we get that piece. I also have a question on, and this is a traffic question, for the entrance and exit of this property. That, the entrance and exit of this property seems quite close to Nicole. So when we got residents turning left onto Lauren Beth, that seems like a very short, firstly, I think it may be difficult to come out of there, but the second is, it seems rather short if they're trying to turn and go south.
Sure,
Is that-
yes, sir. I understand that it's a 30-mile-an-hour roadway. So traffic is quite slow, relatively speaking. I can't account for some never-do-wells. Regarding access spacing, Mike, what is access spacing standards for 30-mile-an-hour roadway? Yeah, I don't know either. What can I tell you? That there is no traffic backing up at that stop sign that's going to impede anybody coming out of that driveway. In fact, I showed you the simulation, which is infinitely better than me trying to explain it. So the spacing is what the spacing is.
Right, and I understand the piece. Mike, maybe you can adjust this piece as well. What are our forecasts for that area? You know, is there more development in that area that's going to happen, that's going to also increase traffic on that road? Because it may not be there now, but in the future, because my concern is a safety issue for people turning left out of that community, and that road being the way it is, and the traffic controls we can and cannot put in place.
Right. Commissioner, the available lands to develop is this big square, which is unincorporated, but it's within our utility. This parcel could develop in the future, and it would have an access point. Generally, it would be a secondary on Lauren Beth in the future. The primary would be up here to the north. Because you can reach a larger number of lots in that subdivision, you would really need to have two access points. So this could develop. What it's going to take beyond that is someone to buy these farms and houses, and it's just really not much more development besides the vacant one across the road that could develop in the future. It has a low-density residential land use. So one thing you've got to keep in mind is if this property came in for an R1 zoning, so instead of a 40 or 50-foot wide lot, it's going to have a 70-foot wide lot. What you're going to see is the project is going to come in at 38 single-family homes. And there's nothing we can say other than make sure the engineering works. And so that could happen. I mean, someone could come in with 70-foot wide lots and do a subdivision. And still would have to meet all the same criteria that this proposal is.
Is that good, Commissioner?
Yes.
All right, I'm fixing to close the public hearing, but you want to make a...
Mayor, I still have two phone calls.
First I got to do the phone calls. Okay.
Can I make a comment while we wait on the phone calls?
Yeah.
Just a couple quick comments. One, it seems to me that the planning and zoning, they approve one part of it, the PUD to build the subdivision. Then they disapproved you said the flow of it. I'm not really sure what that means, the flow of it. It sounds like you can't have one without the other. You got to have them both in order for this to go through. One of the things I would like to see from an engineering standpoint, I would like to see a 3D rendering video of how water flows in this particular project, the subdivision. I don't know if you have that. No, a lot of engineering firms do this. They have the three-dimensional videos that show how water flows from one location to another, or drainage from one place to another, I guess. In this case, from this project or the subdivision to the retention ponds or the drainage system that you propose coming from the back to the front of the subdivision. Is that something that you guys have in place?
Before you answer that, I'm going to let them, people on the phone talk. I thought it was going to be a shorter question.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, hold on, I think the stream is behind.
What you're watching on TV may be actually a little bit delayed.
Correct. I wanted to finish to what he was saying.
You need their name and...
Okay, I think it's caught up. No, some of the questions I had,
Can you just speak
on,
your name?
William?
William what?
Is it William Balford?
That's correct.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So looking at the planning, our biggest issue, obviously, traffic is obviously going to increase. You can't deny there. If you put 40-some homes into an area, you're going to increase traffic along Lauren Beth. Infrastructure along that road is going to need to be improved to handle the increased traffic. Going to the water concern, looking at their planned retention ponds, looking at the layout of the property, they're showing a water retention area on the northwest area. If that area actually connects to my property, which is currently underwater, and flows down back into Lake Meadows. So if the water does flow into those retention ponds, what stops it from connecting to my wetlands that flow back into Lake Meadow?
You want us to answer now, or you want us
Well,
to take notes?
what, has he got other questions?
Do you have other questions?
The water's the biggest issue outside of the traffic, but the traffic's secondary. The water's the biggest issue. You're also talking about the 100-year flood line. We're pretty close to that here in this area. During this last hearing in November, water was 2 feet from my barn. And this last month, we really haven't had that much water, and my barn is now close to being underwater. The water is literally at my doorstep in the barn and has risen since our last meeting with relatively the last 30 days, no storm rain. We're not in the summer of rainy season. So my concern is if we get any more water and we go through this fall season and winter season of a drier season and come back into our wet summer season, what am I looking at? They're also talking elevations. During my purchase of the property, my two structures on the top side of the property, my shop is at 87, the home is at 89. My barn is obviously lower, probably closer to 84 to 85, which we're talking now. What are my protections if the water flows and gets close to those 91-foot ranges? What's my protection?
All right, we're going to try to, all right.
When we're at a 100 years line at 84.
All right, hold on a second. All right. Who's going to answer? Engineer?
Mayor, do you mind asking his address? He said his property is to the north. Is he
What?
adjacent to the north?
Yes, he would.
Okay.
Can you give us your address?
2201 Lauren Beth Avenue.
Anybody got an answer?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Let me try to answer the question best I can here. So first of all, he said, once this pond's built, how do I prevent water from getting on my site? Well, if you look again, I'm going to put the cursor up here, up on this north end up here, so we have a berm here, okay? And we have to design this berm so that the water stays fully contained within our property, all the way around, all four sides. We not only have to design it to the 100-year event, but we actually have to have freeboard above and beyond that. Because the city code says you not only have to hold the 100-year storm, but you got to have freeboard above and beyond that. So our pond's being designed so that water can't break out and it can't go somewhere else. Now, as far as his concern...
But your pond in the northeast corner is going to connect my land. How are you stopping that?
No, tell him to wait till he finishes. Please.
Oh, sorry. You're going to go ahead and let him finish explaining.
And as far as his property goes and what the water's doing on his property, I don't have topography of his land, so I don't know what elevation his barn and other facilities sit at. What I can tell you is that the mapped FEMA floodplain out here for this whole area is elevation 84.6. So anything that's at 84.6 or lower has the potential to have issues in a larger storm event. So I'm just simply going back to my exhibits I gave you earlier. In the existing conditions today, water's running off in that upper, and this, if I just flip back real fast to, it's different, yeah. Anyways, up here in this corner, all this runoff today runs off and works its way back to the north towards him. That will not happen in the post-development condition because it's all staying contained within this pond, and it can't break out and go to the north like's happening in the existing condition. So.
All right. Has he got another question? Time's running out. He's got about a minute and a half left.
Do you have another question?
So based on that statement, are we in a position that with this development, are the lake levels of Lake Meadow, we should expect them to fall? If they're taking water away, is that a safe assessment?
No, I didn't say the lake level's going to drop. What I said is we have to prove in the post-development condition with our drainage modeling that the post-development condition is equal to or less than the condition that's there today. So it's not going to increase the situation. There will not be increased runoff on property that is adjacent to us, and there will not be a rise in elevation out there because of our development, because we are containing our entire 100-year storm event from all of the proposed impervious area that we're creating on the property, and it cannot and will not be released onto the neighboring property.
All right, all right. So we gotta move on with times. So if we have has he talked to you before, this gentleman?
I have not, no.
Right.
But
We're
happy to reach out to him.
We'll send him the names of the developer where they can talk more to him, okay? Next one.
He said he's going to go ahead and share your information with the developer. All right, so thank you. I have your phone number and do you want to give me Okay. Thank you. I'll make sure she
You got the next one online?
No, the other speaker's going to send an email for us
Do what?
to share with the commission. She didn't want to speak.
All right, okay. I think we've had all the questions, so one more. We got to move on, so you're done? Okay. All right, I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back to the dais. We've spent enough time. All right. Anybody else have any questions? You have anything you want to read? You have any?
We do.
Huh?
We have the rezoning ordinance.
Okay.
This is an ordinance of the City of Ocoee, Florida, changing the zoning classification from Ocoee A1 to Ocoee PUD on certain real property containing approximately 18.59 acres, located directly east of Lauren Beth Avenue, approximately 3,500 feet to the south of Clarcona Ocoee Road, and 166 feet north of Nicole Boulevard, pursuant to the application submitted by the property owner. Finding such zoning to be consistent with the Ocoee Comprehensive Plan, providing for and authorizing the revision of the official city zoning map, repealing inconsistent ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Is that it?
That's it.
All right. I need no more questions. I
I have
need
one
a,
question. I'm sorry.
okay.
One question. Mike, okay, it sounds like every answer that we've received tonight has clarified what P and Z had brought forward with their 3-2 vote and the 4-1 vote? Because the drainage was an issue, lot size, you already discussed that, because it could relatively go to a 36,
Correct.
38
That's,
single-family homes,
that's correct. In-
just generally. So it sounds as though every question that was asked by P and Z or the concern has been answered to us tonight. Am I correct?
Correct. And what's the nice thing is by bringing the preliminary subdivision plan with the rezoning, you're seeing, you're hearing the facts, but you're seeing how it's laid out. This is going to come back to you, not in a public hearing, but it's going to come back to you for approval for the final site
Yeah,
plan,
obviously.
where we will show you the definitive evidence to show you that it's meeting and exceeding the requirements and why we're recommending approval.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right, once again, any more comments up here? All right, we're going to ask for a motion. I ask for a motion for the approval of item 6.
I think there's two motions that we need to rezone.
Well, he didn't do the annexation thing.
No, it's
It just said
a motion
rezoning.
for the rezoning and then
You
a
want the
motion,
rezoning and what else?
the preliminary subdivision plan.
All
They
right,
need
we'll
to be
do
approved together.
rezoning first. I need a motion for rezoning.
Okay, I'll make that motion that we approve the Lake Meadow rezoning plan to PUD.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Brinson for the rezoning. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Fershner. Any more comments? No more comments? Let's vote. Motion carries unanimously. All right, now I need a motion for the
PSP.
preliminary
Subdivision plan.
subdivision plan.
I'll also make that motion for the preliminary subdivision plan for this project,
For approval of the preliminary subdivision.
for approval of the preliminary.
Yes.
So moved.
And I would just want to add the condition on that approval, the preliminary, that the Orange County changes the property to the city for their access.
One quick comment under that. Is that where our sewer line runs under?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
we have lines
That was
there,
when
yes,
we
sir.
run it to the golf course?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
yes.
Why didn't they do that then?
I don't know, Mayor. We'll get into that.
Okay,
We'll
all
get
right.
into that. They're working on it, and we'll get into it. We just wanted to. And then just a recognition
All
that
right,
it
okay.
shows the utility.
Okay, I need a second.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Commissioner Brinson, seconded by Commissioner Wilson. Any more comments? No more comments? Let's vote. Motion carries with 1 nay. Commissioner Oliver.
I voted no on that because I would like to see more information. I know you said you're going to come back with more information for us, that you have conclusive evidence to prove that there will be no actually be no impact to the lake. However, I feel that that information should have came tonight. So without that information, without seeing that or giving me the time to review that information, I can't see voting for that tonight until I see more empirical evidence that it will not affect the water tables of that lake.
You want to make a comment?
No.
Oh, no, okay, all right. Motion, all right. Let's move on to item, regular agenda. None. Staff action, none.
Nothing.
Comments from citizens. I have one form turned in here, and it'll be put into public record. We won't read it in here. It'll be put into the city's public record. That form I got from Mr. Moore. That's going to be put into the record. Anything else? Yes, sir. You got 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name's Jim Moyer. I'm a citizen of Ocoee and resident of Arden Park North. I have a concern about the plans to complete Arden Park North, which is just over 50% complete. The amenities that I understand that are being planned were already excuse me, already in place. There's a place that accommodates children, pets. There's a pool with a capacity of only 99 people. There's a gym that has no posted capacity, but it basically appears to only handle about 20 people. And eventually there'll be a total of 681 people in Arden Park North, plus the 157 people in Arden Park South that are allowed to come over, bring guests, and Arden Park North is allowed to bring guests. Now, we've all been teenagers before. Being a teenager can be a difficult time. During COVID-19, it can be even more difficult because teenagers in particular, they've lived over a decade, but just over a decade, and they have many challenges. Now, Arden Park North has no amenities to accommodate teenagers. And I live 1 block from the pool. I see many different teenagers dangerously throwing footballs at the pool, riding down a hill towards the pool that has been destroyed by construction trucks. I see them throwing rocks near the pool. I've seen them playing tennis in the roadway. A lot of dangerous activities. It's because there is no accommodation for a football field, a soccer field, a volleyball court, a basketball court, a tennis court, or any other activity, group activity that they could have, which many smaller developments have in place. So I know you're working closely with Brock Nicholas and his staff. If there's any way you can mention those things. Right now, the only people really being accommodated are swimmers, a small amount of people doing gym, and people have pets, and people have small children. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.
Thank you. I would hope that people that are buying in that subdivision would check that stuff out before they buy. If you're gonna buy into a subdivision, I would hope you look into what their amenities are gonna be. All right. Anybody else? We're gonna close. Anybody else on the phone? All right, that's all for the comments from citizens and public. All right, commissioners' comments. All right, I got to start with Commissioner Firstner.
No comment, really. I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, Happy Holidays. Stay safe out there, but enjoy the season. Thank you.
All right, number 2 will be Commissioner Oliver.
Yes. Got a couple of comments. Last Thursday, December 10th, we had a public meeting to discuss the traffic situation on McCormick as it relates to D.R. Horton and the development that they're doing on the corner of Apopka Island Road and McCormick Road, adding 377 homes, which equates to about maybe 700 cars. Not only that, but Apopka's building another 1,000 homes on the other side of the road. So we have some major traffic impacts that we would discuss at that particular meeting. We actually, the city came out and gave us some information as to what the city's position is as it pertains to that traffic. Some good information. Now, in addition to the folks that showed up at that meeting, I did receive a few emails. I will read a couple of them off just to kind of give you an idea of what the folks think about this particular subdivision coming to the traffic impacts that that particular subdivision may have on the impact of McCormick and Apopka Island Road. This one, I'm not going to call their names. I'm just going to read their comments. So to commissioners, this is in regard to the new subdivision approved on the corner of Apopka Island and McCormick Road and the added congestion this will cause. I use this intersection daily, driving on McCormick and attempting to easily turn left and to turn left on Apopka Island during the morning traffic commute and any other time, really. There are no stop signs on Apopka Island, and the traffic both ways is consistent, has a consistent speed limit of at least 50 miles an hour, making it hard to turn left or right. Another citizen wrote, to whom it may concern, being high risk of COVID-19, I could not make the meeting, to attend the meeting. It says, however, I want to voice my opinion that it be heard in terms of the new neighborhood going up with 377 new homes at the intersection of Apopka Island Road. It's very concerning that there are no plans to update the roads for this increase of vehicles. Being someone who lives off of Ingham Road and McCormick Road now, I can attest that it has already been very dangerous to get out to Apopka Island and McCormick Road almost any time. And the other letters I received, I got just a few more. They're the same concerns. The citizens are concerned about traffic in the area. Did find out that yes, there is some money that had been that was let's say slated for a traffic light at that particular intersection. However, we were told that they would not start a study for that particular intersection until the project reaches about 50% capacity. And our concerns, I live on McCormick myself, and I understand exactly what the folks here was talking about. That's why I called for a public meeting. We sent out about 2,000 flyers, but again, we had comments, and we had a few folks show up to talk about it, the concerns. So the concern is the fact that there's money slated for this. We're talking about 50% capacity. That means that we're going to have not only construction vehicles going up and down that road to build those subdivisions, you have the traffic now, and then you add 50% more cars added to the road, in addition to the Apopka project. So now you're talking about 1,000 cars plus. Now, the problem is the fact that if the money is already designated, we got to wait 50% capacity. That means that by the time you get through with the surveys, the studies, and the warrant studies, you're talking 3 to 4 years before you can see it. By the time you get to 4 years, you're 100% capacity. So that was one of the issues we had. So we decided, I did speak to those citizens that showed up, and we're going to go down to the county. It is a county road. So you have city vehicles that are using county roads. So right now, as the city is concerned, we can't slow anything down because for fear of being sued. So that puts us between a rock and a hard place. If you rewind this, what happens is at the beginning of this whole project, there is some discussion, there is some negotiation, and there's some contracts. So between the discussion and negotiation, this did come up, but then it was agreed that we'll wait till it's 50%, which I don't think that's the right way to do things when you're looking at safety. So now here we are. The agreement now is to go down to one of the next county meetings and present this information to the county to say, okay, let's not wait until we hit 50%. We need for you guys to ante up and look out for the safety of these citizens in Ocoee and put that light there, work with the developer, do what we need to do, and see what we can get done in that capacity. So that was one of the highlights of the conversation at that meeting. So I'm going to kind of shift down a little bit. One of the other issues is that we had Clark Road opened up, and we were all really excited about that, so as I am myself. But one of the citizens brought up the fact that there's a bus stop there, right at the corner of Whitefriar Road Drive and Clark Road. There's a bus stop there, and that's not a four-way stop. Cars are probably going to average of 45, maybe 50 miles an hour going through there, and no bus stop. So I did speak to the management staff. I talked to the city manager. I spoke with Steve. We talked about it a little bit. Steve reached out to the school board to see if they'd be willing to move the bus stop. If the school board's willing to move the bus stop, then it's a non-issue. We're good. The kids are safe. However, if they are not willing to remove that bus stop, then we have a slight dilemma there. So we have traffic going there, and what the proposal was that we add some signs, some type of signage to say there's a bus stop ahead. or a flashing light to give people the idea that they need to slow down, at least as they're approaching that particular intersection. So what I need tonight is, I want to see if we can get some type of consensus to purchase those signs if the school board decided they would not move that particular bus stop. So what I'm looking for is to be able to get a consensus from the commission so we don't have to wait on this through all the red tape. If we get a consensus tonight and the school board says we're not going to move it, then we have the authority to move forward and start adding the signage or flashing lights or whatever we can put there by law, by state law, in order to keep our kids safe at that particular intersection.
I don't believe we have to have a consensus. We got it. Every time there's a school stop, they put up the signs. So we don't have to do that as per se. That's the thing that we do. Every school stop, every place there's a school place, there's school slow down signs and school warning for children.
Are you speaking of a school bus stop, Commissioner?
Well, not necessarily a bus stop. I'm speaking about some kind of signs. But when a person is approaching that, let's say you're 50 feet away or 100 feet away from it, as you're approaching that particular intersection, because again, I would like to see some type of signs to say, hey, there's a school bus stop come ahead, or there's children playing ahead.
I was just
something to
trying to distinguish a school crossing, which I think the mayor's referring to, or the school
Or-
zone versus.
School zone signs.
Well, school
children
zone signs are in
Yeah.
schools, not
We
school
put
bus
those-
stops.
I have seen
Bus
the
stops to
signs
me
you're
is the
talking
same
about
thing.
before for a school
Yeah.
bus stop, and I think that's
Yeah.
what the request
Yeah.
is. And typically, I don't
They
know
got
that we've
signs that
put
say
any of
warning
those
bus
in
stop.
before, so that would be something the commission, if you
Yeah,
wanted
I
to do.
always
would
think
do.
that's automatic with us. Steve?
Has a school board member have you approached a school board member about moving that
We've
school
already
bus
reached
stop?
out to the school board to find out what they're willing to do, either move the school bus stop or
Is there a
if
second
they're at signage there. So we're waiting on them to get back to us on that.
Was there a back
Not
entrance
yet.
into that?
I'm sorry?
Is there a back entrance into that subdivision?
There's a couple entrances, because right
Well,
now,
then they can move it
the
back.
same kids that sit at that bus stop that go to Ocoee Middle School, there's a bus stop on the corner in my neighborhood, inside the neighborhood, as opposed to out in the road. So again, they may have an option to either move the bus stop or add some type of signage to let people know that
All
there
right.
are kids there in that zone.
Steve?
Mike Rumor city planner has contacted the school board, and they are looking into it as far as relocating the bus stop. That all's taken
Yeah.
place just since Monday. And
Okay.
as far as a sign, if the school board for some reason doesn't move the bus stop, there is a crosswalk there, and we could sign it as a crosswalk. I don't know that it would take any special commission
No.
authorization. I mean, I think we can do that under our authority, just to sign it
You
if
know
it's
what the
necessary.
right-of-ways are.
Pardon?
You know what the right-of-ways are, where you can put them.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, so
And it's the only thing that would come up, if there's some reason that it would be several $1,000s, we might be looking for additional
No,
funds.
he's not. All right, thanks, Steve.
So it will be, put a crossing guard there that we're talking about?
No, maybe like a lighted crosswalk where the sign's worn, like if somebody, you have some motion sensor crosswalks, if somebody gets in them, they flash the lights, but
Gotcha.
not all the time, similar like at AD Mims.
Okay,
Yeah,
awesome.
Where they have it.
Awesome. Yeah, that would definitely be sufficient if the school board decided they don't want to move the bus stop.
All right.
Okay, awesome. What else do I have here? Okay, another thing that we did talk about in that meeting is looking at getting some type of 5G coverage for our cell phones in the northern quadrant of the city. I'm waiting to hear back from Spectrum. I just got the contact information tonight, so I will be reaching out to Spectrum to find out what are they doing in that area. There's trucks out there all the time, and our internet services goes up and down every day, all day. You know, have to reboot your routers every day just to get your TV to work or your other devices to work. So once I get some information from Spectrum about what they're doing in the northern quadrant, I will publicize that information and also ask them about 5G coverage in that area or even citywide. So that's another part of the infrastructure that most people don't really think about. So we're really thinking about that as well. We also have, during that meeting, I think the mayor brought up some really good points. There was a question about schools on Ingham Road. on Ingham Road, we have, there's a plot of land there that's owned by the school board. And as we all know, our schools are over capacity. Our charter schools are over capacity. Our public schools are over capacity. And right now, the school board has not, at one point, they did identify a K through 8 school on Ingham Road. It was on their 10-year plan. All of a sudden, that disappeared. That school's no longer on the 10-year plan. So now we have these overcrowding of our schools, and we have the land to build the school. And the mayor brought up a good point. These developers paid the school board, was it about $8,000 per house?
$8,800.
$8,800 per house, almost $9,000 per house. And if you look at the growth rate, the way you pointed out, it was very, very interesting to hear that comment, because I didn't know exactly how much it was. And then you start calculating the amount of homes with Lennar, with phase 4, 5, and 6, and not to mention what's happening around in Apopka and the ones we're building on McCormick. That if you add that up, we're giving them millions, and we're giving them hundreds of millions of dollars in tax revenue, and they would not put a school. They took it off of the list. As a matter of fact, I was told that one of the schools that they built in Windermere is a school that I work at, and they took it from our city to build a school that I'm currently working at. So that's kind of like a slap in the face. But other than that, I would like to see what it would take for our commission to visit one of the school board pre-planning workshops, their budgeting workshops, that we can actually talk about what do we need to do to get our K through 8 school built on Ingham Road.
Mayor, members of the commission, Craig Shadricks. I'm going to ask Angel to come down briefly, because this is something that we've been tracking through the city manager's office. Last year during the budget work session, the city of Apopka brought a contingent from their commission, and we're able to get one of the schools put back on the funding list. And subsequent to that, Rob and I met with our school board representative and expressed our concerns over the fact that our schools were overcrowded, and we believe that that would be a viable option. Of course, Commissioner Brinson was at the community meeting along with the mayor and Commissioner Oliver the other night, and there was some considerable discussion about that. But I'm going to ask Angel to come up and just provide a brief perspective on that.
Good evening again, Mayor and Commissioners. Angel de la Portilla, Economic Development Consultant. Commissioner Oliver, let me point out a few things. So the site on Ingham Road is a middle school site. It's always been a middle school site. The school board purchased that property, I would say maybe a dozen years ago. It's not been funded for a new school. Earlier this year, when we ran into the school capacity issue for Ocoee Village, we approached the school board. In fact, Mayor Johnson, myself, addressed the school board, I believe it was on the 24th of February, and then a week later, I think we had Commissioner Moore from the county was here on the school capacity issue. And one of the remedies for the school capacity issue is build another school in Ocoee. And in order, we know that our elementary schools are overcrowded, and we know that our middle schools are overcrowded that serve that northern quadrant that you mentioned. And we proposed, why don't you convert that site into a K through 8, a kindergarten through 8 site, and then fund it for future years. So I've had that conversation with school board member Melissa Bird. She was able to get a K through 8 school advanced in the city of Apopka, and as Craig mentioned, it was after there was a school board meeting, and Mayor Brian Nelson showed up with 3 commissioners, and they addressed the school board about school overcrowding in the city of Apopka. And then when the school went through their facilities planning process, they were able to reallocate some funds and put a new school in Apopka. So I don't know exactly if that's the statement you made, whether money that was raised in Ocoee was spent in Windermere. We don't know that. We know that now there's a lot of development, especially on that north part of the city, and we need an elementary school and we need a middle school, and combining K, but we can certainly bring that We can certainly bring School Board Member Byrd we can invite her to attend one of our meetings in the new year and request that her staff look at possibly advancing a school in their work plan, so.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I did have a conversation with her a few months back about that particular project. It was on her radar, but she did not know where the board sat as far as funding for that K through 8. But I do have a call out for her right now, and just hopefully I should hear from her in the next couple of days and have more information about that. And then hopefully we can maybe strategize. I mean, obviously, Apopka, they strategize to figure out how to get that school in Apopka. I don't see any reason why we can't do the same with the help of our leadership team to put together some talking points, to go to one of their pre-budgeting meetings to say this is what we need, and to see if we can get them to help us to get it done.
Those pre-budgeted meetings typically take place in March. That's when they have the facilities overview and all that, so timing is right to bring it up early in the year.
All right.
Thank you.
With that being said, what can we do about getting some talking points? I don't know. I can't speak for the other commissioners. I can only speak for myself. I'll be willing to go to bring forth some talking points to the school board to talk about that. If the other commissioners are willing to do so, maybe we can give them talking points as well to approach the school board to find out how can we expedite a K through 8 in our city on Ingham Road. Is that something that the staff be willing to do, or how do we take action on that?
Well, Commissioner, we've had those discussions with them for years, and we have a fairly good relationship with the last school board members that we have. I think a big part of it is whether it's a phone call or whether you visit them in their office or something. I think they need to hear from you all also, and we can always invite them down. I don't know if they know we're going to throw these questions at them as why don't we have a new school. I don't know if they're going to accept the invitation, but I know every time we see someone from the school board, we bring that up. We're aware of the site. The original, we had to do some arm twisting 10 or 12 years ago to get that site up on the north end for the school, which was originally, I believe, an elementary school, and then they changed it for a K to 8. But I mean, every time they've come here, we pound our fists and we say, you need to do this, and it just doesn't get on the list. So I think, so maybe some more interaction and some calls from y'all, and we invite them to come in every time we see them, perhaps, extend the olive branch and have them come in, and, anything we can do to constantly bring that issue up is going to help. We've not been successful. I think, we thought it was quite the coup when we got them to put that parcel in, the development, and they haven't done anything with it since, even though we've pushed and pushed and pushed for over 10 years now.
Well, it sounds like the mayor's already on the right track with that. I want to jump on board with that. So if I get some talking points, Angel, I'll reach out to you to get some talking points on that. And
I can certainly help you with that, yes.
Yeah, and I will visit our school board representative's office, or again, I'll visit the workshop, and I will voice, the opinion of the city as far as that school's concerned, or the talking points that you guys give me to do so. So I'll be willing to do that. I'll reach out to you this week, Angel, to get some more information about that. And then finally, we have Operation Santa going on, where you have the fire department going through all the different neighborhoods. And I think the last day is like the 18th or something like that. I'll be out there Thursday with on the sleigh with Santa, collecting toys for our toy drive. However, I have run into a few residents in the past few years where they missed it. And I'll just tell them, just take the toys to the fire department. So in addition to helping out the fire department, I will be at the West Oaks Mall I'll have a toy drive at the West Oaks Mall on the 19th, this Saturday the 19th, from 8 a.m. to noon on the Clark roadside. So we'll also be collecting toys for those that either miss Santa, or you just can't get over to the fire department. We'll be there loading up a truck, and we'll take those toys from the West Oaks Mall over to the fire department so that they'll have those toys for the folks that either miss Operation Santa. So that will be Saturday, this Saturday, December 19th, on the Clark roadside of the mall from 8 a.m. to noon. We will be collecting toys for our kids here in Ocoee, and we'll take them to the fire department. Thank you, and God bless, and happy holidays, and we'll see you after Christmas.
All right. Commissioner Brinson.
Okay, I'd like to talk about COVID-19 and good citizenship. Our numbers here, actually across the nation, but here in Central Florida, is going up. We must be very, very diligent and not let our guards down when it comes to COVID-19. There's holiday season that's upon us, and unfortunately, these holiday seasons sometimes will also turn into super spreader events. So I encourage you, I urge you, I implore you to be very mindful of the gatherings you may have over the holiday period. And this holiday period is really going to stretch all the way into mid-January. So be mindful of the gatherings that you're having so that it's not to turn into super spreader events. The next thing I'm going to talk about, 'cause I think that we're all going to talk about COVID-19 more and more and more, is bicyclists on the roads. Especially this time of the year, it gets darker quicker. And so even this evening, as I was coming in to the commission meeting, I was on Ocoee Road, which has no shoulders whatsoever for bicyclists, and yet there were bicyclists on the road that had no lights on their bike other than a rear light. We must make sure that we're being safe and do our part as bicyclists and pedestrians to ensure that we're seeing during the hours of darkness. And speaking of the hours of darkness, it is school's time still. We still have students out on the road early in the mornings, so we have to be mindful of them. It is early in the morning, so sometimes their attention span is not quite there. So be careful, especially crossing intersections and or turning corners. Clark Road, I got to say this again. We just opened Clark Road, the extension part of it. However, Clark Road crossing over Ocoee Road is still a dangerous intersection. Once again, I would encourage everyone to be very careful when you're turning left, going north on Clark Road, or turning left going south on Clark Road, because it's a blind hill, and sometimes you can't see the car until you're into your turn. So you want to be careful in making those turns. Ocoee is growing. We are growing at a pretty good clip. So that means there's a lot of construction going on. Even now during this holiday season, there's a lot of construction vehicles on the roads. Again, I've said this before. I ask for your patience. Please, no road rage. We really don't need it, but we are growing, and this is the holiday season, so be mindful of those out there who are less fortunate than yourselves. I know I'm committed to that. I've done a lot behind the scenes, but I ask everyone to be mindful that not everyone is in the condition that you're in. So if you see someone that is in need, please, hopefully this holiday season will help you be generous in your giving. That's all I have.
Commissioner Wilson.
Yes. Rob, I mean to ask you, are we any closer to restroom issues being dealt with on the lake? Is there any updates on that?
I think you're referring to the next phase of the downtown. Craig,
Is that the next phase where restrooms are being addressed? Am I right or wrong, or? Everything's moving along slowly. Well, they're asking, well, we get to that answer.
Yeah, I mean, I think the phase you're speaking of, I don't know that there's designated funding right now for that.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay.
That was a latter part of the park phase and is currently unfunded.
Okay. All right. Well, that's something we do need to continue to kind of keep on the back burner, because that's an issue down at the lake. I know that, and especially maybe as we approach the summer, just as last summer, it's been an issue to deal with that. And I mean, I'm not wild about portalets being down there, because that takes away from the Lakeshore Center, but I'm hoping we can make some strides in that direction. It's an important item. Just want to thank Operation Santa. I saw them out there tonight. It's a great program. It's nice that they were able to do this during this pandemic, that they were still able to offer a little joy to in our neighborhoods. Also, I know that the mayor mentioned tonight about the lights that we've kind of had some issues with along the way, But I do want to make a point that, please, if you get a chance to look at the Withers McGuire House and down, and here at City Hall, it does look beautiful, the lights. And again, we're always looking for something to do, go out and look at lights, and we have them right here downtown, so please don't forget that. Great decorating over at the Withers McGuire House. It just has that, should I say, this mystique that we live in it almost gives that little idea of a small town, even though, as you said, Ocoee is growing. Just like to wish everyone a happy and safe holiday season, and please remember that I know I, as other commissioners, were only a phone call away if you have questions or concerns. So please, reach out. Thank you.
Thank you. One of the things I want to bring up, we had a lady that's lived in Ocoee probably, I don't know, over 50 years. She fell on her street up on the hill, up on one of the streets, and fell, and people was driving by, and she was screaming and hollering, trying to get somebody to stop. Well, the gentleman that stopped was one of our city employees. And I'm gonna tell you, his name is Rodney Dungy. I'd love the utilities department to make sure at our next meeting, if he can come, and we need to give him a plaque and give him a little award. I think that's the kind of people we want working for us that'll take the issue to stop and make sure. She would have probably, she has a heart problem, so she probably would have had really bad problems there if we wouldn't have stopped and helped her and got the ambulance there. So it's a time nowadays where people I know are scared to do this because of some of the COVID, but please, citizens, if you see people in distress, let's see what we can do. And this gentleman here, we want to make sure he knows that we as a city, Rob, I want you to make sure you please get him and see if we can bring him back here, Craig, and we'll thank him in person. And I'll ask Ms. DeLucia if she can come. If she can, I'll see if I can get her here too.
Just real quick, we got the call also up in the city manager's office, and apparently 3 people drove past her and did not stop, and our employee stopped, and then a couple days later stopped by and followed up on her. So
Yes.
that's definitely the kind of person we want working for us.
Good citizens.
And
Yeah, that's good.
once again, yes, the McGuire House, if you come into our buildings in the city, you'll see one of the prettiest Christmas trees you'll ever see. He should win an award for the Christmas trees. And also our executive secretary brought up to me yesterday what Claremont was doing, and maybe next year we can have a group do it. They have a whole village of Christmas trees down on the lake park in Claremont where people different businesses do the trees, and people get to go during the week, go down to the trees and look at all the different trees. So maybe next year we can do that down here at our park. Maybe have some hot chocolate or things like that, or something going on where the people can come down and you get to look through the trees and see all the beautiful trees, and maybe even our departments can enter it. So Ms. Seaver brought that to me, so I think that's a great thought process. Once again, let's all be safe. Everybody have a happy holiday and be careful. We'll see you January the 5th. Meeting adjourned.